Hey everybody, Alan here. Thanks so much for stopping by my channel. Uh, Whether you're a beginner and you've never shuffled a deck of cards before, or you're wanting to learn like some of the coolest, most show-off ways to shuffle a deck of cards for your friends, family, magician, whatever it is, I got you covered in this video. So stick with me, and we're going to go from beginner all the way up to advanced shuffling techniques. There will be chapters splitting this up so that way you can just jump right to the section you're interested in. Without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so you want to learn how to shuffle cards. We're going to go from beginner all the way up to advanced. Thank you for clicking on this video. I appreciate you taking the time to stop by the channel. We're going to show you how to do tabled riffle shuffles, overhand shuffles, and one-handed shuffles. But before we do any of that, if you just need a way to shuffle cards, let's show you that right away, okay? This is a perfectly acceptable way to shuffle, and it takes absolutely no skill. You have to start with your deck of cards. Of course, make sure they're all face down to start. That's certainly helpful. And then from there, we're going to cut the deck into two pieces. If you've never heard that expression before, cutting the deck is no more than lifting about half the cards up and splitting them, okay? That's it. So we're going to cut the deck into two halves, and then we're going to spin them. We're going to take these two fingers here on each hand, and we're going to spin the cards into these circles like this. This is called a Rosette Shuffle. Then you take those and then you push those into each other. It's messy, but it's a legitimate shuffle, and it's probably the easiest way without any skill to get those cards shuffled. Little tip, if you want to square them up, turn them on their side and then roll your hand like this until all of the cards are going flat, collect them, and then you're ready to go. Probably the next level in difficulty would be the overhand or Hindu shuffle, and these look like this. That's the overhand, and this is referred to as the Hindu shuffle. And they're both accomplishing basically the same thing. You're stripping off small packets of cards and reorienting them. Okay? Now, depending on where you are in the world, will dictate a lot about what shuffle you're more likely to see. But both are valid ways of shuffling, and I'm going to go into them right now. The overhand shuffle, you hold the cards into your left hand, index finger on top to prevent them from sliding and falling out. Three fingers curled along the back, thumb resting on the back of the deck like this, okay? The right hand comes over and grabs most of the cards, or all of the cards, up to you, and then your thumb will start pulling down small packets as your hand repeatedly draws up and away. The left hand stays stationary, the right hand does all the motion. The only thing the left hand is doing is receiving the cards, and the left thumb helping to draw those cards from the right hand's packet down into the left hand. So the second variation of that is called the Hindu shuffle, and that looks like this. Okay, and it's very, very similar to the overhand shuffle. In fact, you're doing almost exactly the same motion as the overhand shuffle. You're just doing it with the cards in a different orientation. This tends to be a lot more comfortable with people with smaller hands. So if you have smaller hands, or if you're a child, this will be a lot easier for you to do. So here's the basic holding of the cards. Okay, I have the thumb and the middle finger opposite each other on the very far edge of the deck here, near what we call the pip. And that's holding all of the cards. The index finger's on top to provide a little bit of pressure. And the left hand is going to grab and strip cards away gradually. So it looks like this, and you're stripping them from the top into small packets that drop into the left hand. Notice the placement of my index finger. I always have a finger somewhere to make keep the cards from slipping and sliding and falling all over. In this case, because I have to do this repeated stripping action, I want a stop so the cards don't, if I did it without the stop, the cards would shoot forward like that. So my index finger is there to prevent those cards from going any further than where my index finger is placed. Okay? And then you can go through the cards very rapidly and shuffle them like so. Hey, just 2 seconds. If you're getting value out of this video, I really appreciate a like, a comment, or share. Help me beat that algorithm. Share this with your friends and help them to up their shuffling game too. Now we're going to cover riffle shuffles. I'm going to show you on the table in 2 different variations, and I will also show you an in the hands riffle shuffle. For a tabled riffle shuffle, you want to start with the cards horizontally placed like this. You want to cut them in half. So each hand has roughly half the deck. You place them on the table, angled, so that the two corners are very close to touching. Your right hands are going to come over. Please notice the placement of all of my fingers, okay? Like this. 3 fingers along the outside. Index finger curled on top near the corner, and the thumb near the corner like this. So what you want to do is you want to create counter pressure. You want your finger to be placed, your index finger to be pushing down, and your thumb to be going up. It's like riffling through the pages of a book. And if you think about it like that, it makes it a lot easier. I see people struggle with this all the time because they don't know to add that counter pressure with the index finger. The placement makes it very, very difficult. So leaving your index finger very close to where your thumb is allows a pivot point for the cards to have counter pressure, so they'll run more individually or one at a time as you're going through. Just think about it like riffling through the pages of a book. Okay, here's a little technique too. I am using each deck to square the edges of either packet. I come in, and then what's going to happen is my thumbs are going to lift up, and then I'm going to bring my hands closer than they could be. What the idea is to have them overlapping like this. Of course, I can't do that until I start to flex the cards to allow room for those corners to come close to each other. Then you just run your thumbs up the deck and push them a little bit further in so that they are interleaved like that, and then you press them all together like that. And what I'm doing to press those together is I'm leaving my pinkies on the outside, all the other fingers are coming in, and the thumb on the bottom, and I'm pushing square. I'm pushing square like this, okay? And that allows me to get a nice clean squaring action. All 3 fingers, or all 6 fingers on the top, thumbs on the bottom, pinkies on the sides, and then I just push together with my pinkies until the cards smush together. Now I told you there's 2 different variations of the tabled riffle shuffle, and there are 2 major variations. So you saw the closed riffle shuffle where my hands are very close together on the inside corners right here. There's another shuffle very similar to that, but it's done on the outer edges. So it looks like this. You have this kind of 3-finger grip, and you grab the cards like this. Okay, so you still have that counter pressure from the index finger, and the thumb lifts up from the outer edge. Now what that looks like is that. Now one warning with this variation, well, it's probably fine for most instances. It does kind of create the impression of somebody watching you shuffle that you can see the faces of the cards because it's more open and it looks like you can kind of see down inside of here. Of course you can't. If you try it yourself, you'll notice that you really can't see that. But if you're playing in a game where people are very suspicious or they're wondering whether or not you're cheating, it's probably better to stay with a closed riffle shuffle because it has the appearance of being more honest. Okay, a little bit more complicated riffle shuffle would be the in the hands riffle shuffle. And that looks like this. Now there's 2 ways to finish that. You could push them together like that, or more popularly, a waterfall finish. Pay careful attention to where each finger is placed. I will try to mention it as I go through, but if I miss something, just watch very closely, okay? So here's the first part. You're gonna hold the deck on the long, or with the long edge like this, the short edge with the fingers here, the thumb on the opposite corner, and the index finger curled on the back. And this is to create pressure. You're going to want to be able to riffle these cards like a book, like that. So we're going to hold the cards in this orientation, index finger on the back. Your other hand, in this case my left hand, is going to be waiting to receive the cards that are split. So you run your thumb along to the halfway point, then you allow the cards to fall. They can lever because your fingers are overextended, and then they're held like this. Then the right hand helps to tilt those cards up, and so now you can get into the same position with each hand, like that. Okay? Notice the fingers are on the outside, the index finger curled on top, and the thumb on the outer edge, like this. Okay? Now, you're going to grip everything firmly, fingers curled on the bottom, Index fingers pushing down, thumbs pulling up, and the cards should riffle into each other. Now notice, I have to bring my hands closer after I start riffling so that whenever they fall, they actually make contact with one another. If you do it out here in midair, they'll never, of course, interleave with one another. So you have to bring your hands close enough that they build a shelf like that and connect together like this, okay? Now, you can either just push them together if you'd like, or if you'd like to do the waterfall, it's done like this. Your fingers are already extended. Your thumbs are pressing on top. This keeps a common problem I see from happening, which is that people will crank down and the cards will just shoot up in the air, or the decks will separate like this because they're not creating enough pressure with correct thumb placement, which is just on that seam to keep those cards from unweaving on each other. And then your fingers curled underneath, and then you're going to bow by bending your arms downwards, turning your wrists, and then you open your fingers up to create like a circle, and then the cards, if you just play around with the flexing and the pressure here, the cards will naturally want to fall in that beautiful waterfall we all know and love. Everything's very controlled. Nothing should feel like it's out of your control. If it is, then you need to re-examine finger placement, okay? Last but not least, we're going to go into an advanced shuffle, which is called the one-handed shuffle. I have other videos on my channel where I show this, but I'll show it here for completeness sake. So this is a very tricky one. This is not for everybody. It will take a lot of practice to make your hands do the motions, but it is certainly a conversation piece. So here's what it looks like. I want you to notice the finger placement is very important in this. Thumb is about middle, and you can use the card. If you're using bicycle cards, you can kind of use this as a guide. The back is a guide here. See, there's this little pointy arrowhead right here, or heart, whatever you want to call that. My thumb is lined up with that, or nearly with that. Middle finger is directly opposite the thumb. Ring finger is a little bit lower. And pinky, again on the bottom. Remember we were talking about the stops in earlier chapters. These cards aren't going anywhere. They're not going to slide out. They're not going to fall throughout this entire process. As long as you keep that pinky in place, the cards won't have anywhere to go except to fall into this kind of box you've made with your fingers here. Okay? Now, you also notice my index finger is curled on the bottom. Okay? Now, I'm going to reach over with my index finger and I'm going to bite. Think of it as kind of like biting, kind of grabbing a chunk. And I want as close to half as I can get. Okay? So now you have this kind of V shape here. All the fingers are still in position. The index finger goes into that space that it's created, like this, and now you have a new pressure happening because you have a kind of a grip between the index finger and the thumb happening with this packet. Notice the pinky's still in place so no cards fall. Now this part's going to feel really weird. Okay, let's go through what that was, what that motion was. Pinky goes into the break. Now I'm just going to open my hands up. I'm going to do this. And what's going to happen is the packet that was on top is going to move to the side as I open my hands. Okay? That's what's happening there. Got it? So the way that that happens is it slides, the cards slide on your nail. They're going to slip on that nail surface and it's going to make it much easier. If you have very, very short nails, you may have a little bit more problem. Your skin's going to grab that packet and we really don't want that. You can open your hands very wide. Notice again the pinky has not moved from position. These cards are very securely held in place by the pressure of the index and thumb, the middle to the index finger, and then the pinky is holding everything square. So now you should have kind of a pincher motion like this. Now we're going to interleave the cards. The thumb is going to pivot down and apply pressure around the index finger, causing those two packets to interleave together. They just push together. Now, I make it look easy. You may have some difficulty with this. The cards may not want to push together. If that happens, there's probably one of a couple reasons. One, it's a very brand new deck of cards. Two, you don't have you have the bow going the opposite way. The sway in the playing cards needs to be slightly bowed upwards or in the direction that you're trying to interleave. You don't want you don't want a downward facing bow in the cards, because then they won't ever leave together. And then also the cut on playing cards. There's a micro bevel when the cards are cut. And if they're not cut in the correct way, or you're cut in an opposite direction that you're trying to interleave, you may have some difficulty. So this will be the kind of thing you'll have to experiment and play with. Now my pinky is pretty safe to move out of the way, because I can do one of two different finishes. I can either kind of push them deeper into a V like this, and then let go while the right hand lets the cards fall into this beautiful waterfall. And that's just allowing them to fall down a funnel of my fingers like this into my waiting right hand. Or you can finish with a waterfall. You can either bring it down like this and then do it in midair if you wanted to, if you got enough of your fingers around the edge. You can do it like that. You could do it onto a table. Or you could also do it like that. There it is. Hopefully there's something in here for you. This is by no means the only ways to shuffle deck of cards. There are dozens more ways that I didn't cover in this video. There's just not enough time. If you liked it, I'll make a part 2. Leave me a comment down below. And if you're a magician or budding magician and you're looking to get into magic, can I suggest using my coupon code over at illusionist.com. If you use the coupon code MAGICMINUTE at checkout, you'll save 10% off of your order, and I get a nice little kickback that helps this channel keep going. It's a way that if you're already shopping, you can add a little bit extra to help support this channel, and it won't cost you anything extra. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.